Happy Hanukkah for the Festival of Lights. I'm in a room with bad lighting, but such is life. I'm here today with you with 8 romance books to recommend, romance books for Hanukkah. And as one of the characters in one of the books says, why are we even having Hanukkah romances? It's not a major festival, it's not a thing. But the answer is because it happens near Christmas, isn't it? That's basically it. So there are. Okay, Hi, welcome back. Happy Hanukkah. Today I'm coming to you with 8 Hanukkah romances for the festival. I don't read a lot of romance, as you know, but I was somewhat intrigued to discover last year that Hanukkah romance turns out to be a genre. And so I thought, why not go all in and find 8 of the things? So I don't have any books to hold up because I'm not at home at the moment, and also most of them are ebooks. But the nature of romance books, isn't it, that you can pick them up for a couple of pounds on Kindle and they are pretty good. Okay, so Hanukkah romances, there are 3 things which they all agree on. Number one, Hanukkah is not a major festival, and it would be nice if people who are Jewish, friends of people who are not Jewish, who had Jewish friends, would wish them a happy fast on Yom Kippur, or ask whether they have somewhere to go at Pesach, who would actually pay attention to the major festivals of Judaism. Because Hanukkah is not like the Jewish Christmas. If anything, if there's a parallel festival, which it's a very, very dodgy parallel, the parallel would be Pesach. Pesach is the festival on which you go home to your family. There's a nice big meal, there's special festival traditions, you probably get presents. Like that is the one that's more like Christmas. It's celebrated in the home with your family, with you bring friends. You've probably got a family favorite food that you eat. Everyone's dashing around the country. Like that's more like, right? Whereas Hanukkah is this minor festival which isn't even in the Jewish Bible. It's in the Christian Bible, it's in my Bible because it's in Maccabees, but it's not in the Jewish Bible. So it's a festival of dedication, or festival of lights. The second thing is not everyone has a major holiday at this time of year. One of the books which I read, but I'm not going to otherwise mention, talks about someone coming in to a place where they have a Hanukkah festival and trying to make it into a holiday festival by adding a holiday tree. And it's very much like when you say happy holidays, and this is not a new idea to me, but it can come as a bit of a shock. Or most of these books had a thing that when you say happy holidays, it's actually trying to Christianize everyone by default. I'm not sure that every non-Christian feels like this, but this idea that everyone has a festival just because Christians do can actually be quite offensive. So the question of whether you say happy holidays or whether you say happy Christmas, like it's about the meaning, isn't it? If you're coming in and you're saying, well, I have a festival now, so you have to, right? Happy holidays, that's offensive. If you're saying, I know you don't necessarily celebrate Christmas, but I want you to share in my joy, happy holidays, that's a good thing, right? So it's all about the intention. But these books are kind of down on the whole happy holidays thing, I'm afraid. Sorry, as being a mark of Christian supremacy. And the third thing is, you may or may not know, at Hanukkah, because it's a story about oil, people tend to eat fried foods. That's one of the things you do at Hanukkah. You often have a type of donut called a sufganiyah. The plural is sufganiyot. So these books are all like, the singular of sufganiyot is sufganiyah. So without further ado, That's your introduction to the Hanukkah. Presumably, these things happen in Hanukkah books of other genres as well. I've got some Hanukkah crime coming up, and I guess I'll find out. Okay, so the first book I have for you is Love and Latkes by Stacey Agden. This is the third in a series. I actually read the first in the series, didn't like it, and decided, well, I've bought the third anyway, I'm going to give it a go. This it has a ridiculous lacquer competition. Now, it's only ridiculous because Hanukkah isn't a big festival, but there is a mitzvah, a commandment to publicize the miracle. So, in some ways, having a lacquer cooking competition it could be said to be publicizing the miracle. So, I'm willing to give it a pass there. Um, and in this book, someone goes back to her old town where she wasn't ever going to go again because she's got her old crush who there was a misunderstanding, it turns out. And you actually get to see both sides the whole way through. So it's fairly obvious to you, the reader, from early on that there's a misunderstanding from fairly early on. There is a lot of cooking, a lot of fried food, a lot of wise grandmothers, which is also a bit of a trope, I guess. Um, and honestly, if it weren't for the ridiculous nature of the lacquer competition, I think this would be a pretty good book. I don't actually remember how spicy it is, so sorry about that. But I think there isn't a lot of sex. I just can't remember whether there is any or not. Okay, book number 2, Carol of the Belskis by Astrid Amara. This is someone who, a Jewish person and his non-Jewish boss stroke lover. The boss is in the closet. Seth, our protagonist, dumps him at the beginning of the book and goes home to the family for Hanukkah. But his aunt, who runs the B&B, and is gone. So when he gets there, he finds that he suddenly is not just on holiday, he's running a B&B for the festival. And his now ex turns up and is all like, well, I'm going to cook until you agree to be my lover again. And then his ex, when pushed to come out of the closet, well, it's towards the end of the book. So it's quite sweet. It is the first in a series, so it's fairly obvious where he's going with this. It's not very believable. Like there are some jumps, but it's there's snow, there's people stuck in a B&B, there's cooking, there's a little bit of sex. So that sounds like the thing. Carol the Belskis by Astrid Amara. The next one is short, and it's more or less erotica rather than romance. It is sex, 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 sex the whole way through. There's a young married couple who are having a hard time and they make a wish and they go to bed. So he wishes he's got looking for the right chord for his piece of music that he's working on, and she is a jeweler and she's looking for people to buy. And then these 3 Hanukkah fairies, this triad of Hanukkah fairies, arrive and have sex everywhere across the room in order to make the wish happen. It's some kind of you need lesbian triad sex in order to make it wishes happen fairy magic, and it is hilarious. It's just like this is a thinly veiled fairy erotica thing. Like, what are these couple even doing that? I don't know, but I found it hilarious and very, very spicy. It's sex from beginning to end. But it is short. Okay, Meteors and Menorahs by Nessa Cloth. This is someone who is her parents always have her ex over for holidays, except for Hanukkah because it's a minor one. And so she feels like she's been pushed out because the ex is very controlling, very dominating, and very insistent that she's going to come back to him because she belongs to him. And the parents aren't listening to, well, I can't come if he's going to be in the house. So she takes home a colleague, only it turns out that the colleague is an alien. He's not just not Jewish, he's not human. And I'm like, why is he an alien? It makes no sense. apart from that, this is a story about reconnecting with family, about friends to lovers, about accepting people who are different to you, and yeah, about explaining to someone who isn't Jewish where Jewish traditions come from. Another one about explaining where Jewish traditions come from is Eight Nights in December by Kira Andrews. This is someone who has no family, and his roommate's family turn up to take him home for Hanukkah, and he's just going, and they just sweep him up with him and take him home and dump him in the brother's room. And then it turns out the brother's gay, and they all knew everyone was gay. And it's just like these two boys falling in love with each other. And this, again, it's allowing a lot of exposition about what Hanukkah is about, because the main character isn't Jewish, which works really quite well, I think, especially if you've got readers who aren't Jewish. And it's just really, really sweet. There is a small amount of sex, not a lot of sex, but there is sex in it. And it just really sweet, falling in love over the course of the 8 nights. Another sweet 8 night falling in love, Ben's Bakery and the Hanukkah Miracle by Penelope Peters. This one has no explicit sex. I think it's got no explicit sex. It's got implicit sex. And it's about a hockey coach who normally stays at home at Hanukkah, but he accidentally ends up taking his team to a hockey tournament, and he gets job offers, and he meets this guy in the bakers who's a kosher baker. And it has a lot of arguing about the right way to be Jewish and a lot of misunderstandings. But both of them are kind of lonely and kind of Sufganiyot fans. And they're just both really sweet. And I was really rooting for both of them all the way through, even though when I try and describe it, I'm coming up with loads of tropes that I'm like, really? But actually in the book, it kind of flowed really well. It was really well written, I think. And it was just really lovely. So definitely recommend it. Another very, very sweet book. And I don't know how to describe this apart from sweet and kinky and very, very spicy is Here's for Hanukkah by Reese Morrison. This is someone who starts off by destroying a Christmas display because he is fed up with Christmas getting in his way. He has recently come out of a bad breakup with a bad relationship, and he ends up, he's a sub, and he meets this Dom, or he's known this Dom for a while, and he's had a bit of a thing for this Dom, and the Dom is just like, look, you are clearly having a hard time. I'm just going to look after you. And he's just like completely overwhelmed by Christmas. And the Dom says, look, there's 8 nights here for Hanukkah. I'm going to take you home. We're going to do this for Hanukkah. And there's a little bit of misunderstanding because the Dom obviously thinks, I just don't want to be overwhelming. And the sub is like, he's going to want me over by Hanukkah, at the end of Hanukkah. But it's just like, when the outside world is taking over and everything is piling in on your head, here is someone. Oh, look, I'm breaking up there. It's just so adorable. It's just so lovely. I'm going to take over and look after you. And and I'm going to make sure you're okay. And it's all about safe spaces. It's all about friendship. It's all about family. And it's just adorable. But it is super, super spicy and super kinky as well. So if that's not your thing, you probably want to give this one a miss. And my 8th book for you is The Matzo Ball by Jean Meltzer. I was not sure I was going to like this book, and I adored it. It is an Own Voices book about somebody with ME who comes from a very Orthodox family, but she loves Christmas. And she writes Christmas romances. And then one day her publisher says, actually, we want you to write a Hanukkah one this year. And she's like, why? Why would I write a Hanukkah romance when Hanukkah isn't even that big a festival? It's not, why would you even have a Hanukkah romance? It's just like I was thinking when I discovered this was a genre. But her ex, her first love, I suppose ex is a bit strong, her first love from camp, who turns out to have issues and family things going on in herself, is running a big Hanukkah event. So she's like, well, I suppose I've got to, I need the money, I've got to write this. So I'm going to get into this Hanukkah events, this matzah ball, to learn about how I could do a Hanukkah romance. And then she ends up having her own Hanukkah romance herself. And it's just like the misunderstandings that have been going on for decades. And it's just getting through this mire and morass of built up layers of misunderstandings and misconceptions. But at the heart of it, you've got this wonderful, wonderful woman who is just super, super strong and knows how to manage her disability. Like she's not super, super strong and wonderful in spite of her disability. Like that's part of who she is. It's not all of who she is. She's not overcoming. She's just being her best self. And that is a really powerful thing to have in a book. And it's written really powerfully, probably because the author does have ME. And it's just wonderful, wonderful book. And that one I would heartily recommend to everyone. If it's the only romance book you read, I think that's a good one to pick up. So that is my 8 Hanukkah romances. I have never read so much romance in 1 year. In fact, I think that might have doubled my previous romance intake entirely. But I'm really glad I did. And I sure hope that there are Pesach, I suppose High Holy Days romances wouldn't be a thing. I really hope there's also a genre of Pesach romances. Because otherwise it's like, as I said at the beginning, we're doing it just because it's December and that's when Christians celebrate. Thank you for watching anyway, and I will see you soon, and happy Hanukkah.